What's up, Braden? Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you hopping in here. I'm sure you'll be catching this back in the VOD later, but appreciate you stopping by, saying hello. Hope things are going well for you at work, and appreciate you stopping in. We got a good one in store for everybody here today. Just give me a few minutes. I need to get everything kind of organized here, get everything ready to go, but we're going to look at some teams, have done some research, looked at some of the cap stuff, looked at some of the draft pick stuff, and we're going to have a deep dive conversation into some teams here ahead of the 2023 season. So it should be a fun one. Kind of an extension of our window conversation that we had last week where we put teams in buckets of where their championship windows were. We're going to kind of take one of those buckets and extrapolate it out to see which team might be on the quickest path to finding that long-term success. So that's going to be the focus of today's show. Appreciate y'all being here. Just give me a few minutes to get everything kind of set up here, and we'll get started pretty shortly. Thanks, guys. Okay, we are back. Sorry, had to get the tweet sent out, get the Discord message sent out, get everything set up here so that we could start the show. Hope you all having a fantastic start to your Tuesday. Got a fun one in store for us today. Braden says, looks like a fun topic for today. By the way, I got the 7-1 last night in match play, hoping to lock in the top seed for the end of year tournament soon. Damn, that is a impressive stretch to start the year. Fantastic for you there, Braden. I don't think I've ever won. I don't think I've won 7 match play matches lifetime. You've done one in one season for you, Eckhoff. That's fantastic. What's up, Jamie? Hello to everybody here on the show. Again, a fun one in store for us all today as we're going to look at some of the teams that could use 2023 as a launching pad to open their championship window maybe a little bit quicker than we all anticipate. Good morning to you, Tuttle. So it should be a fun one. Looking forward to it. I've got all my notes here ready to go. So with that in mind, let's go to this screen here and let's get everything started. Hello, Tuttle. Hello, Heldy. Hello to everybody joining us here on the podcast feed, the YouTube feed, however you are listening to us. Appreciate you being here today on the show. What's up, Colton? Let's get started. Fun conversation. A lot of teams, a lot of different directions that we could go. Currently outside of my office from a fall fire alarm. Do you mean false fire alarm? I think you meant to say false fire alarm. Hate when that happens. Yeah, false. Yeah. Oof. Well, at least you can enjoy some TDN Daily while you're waiting to get back into your office building. Maybe you turn it up to let everybody hear so that we can get some more people joining the show. Healthy. Be a good pal. Spread the word about TDN Daily. Rate, review, subscribe, share the show. Do the thing. All kidding aside, welcome in everybody. Let's get the show on the road. Got a fun one in store for you here today. I'm surprised our guy Bailey's here today. And it's kind of fitting that Bailey isn't here today because Justin Fields is the thumbnail image, and I'm going to talk positively about the Bears, and Bailey isn't here on time to start the show. Like, just that couldn't draw it up any better than that for the context of this show. That I always talk bad about the Bears when he's here, and the day he's late or not here, this is what happens. Braden says, are we even going to have more than one NFC team on this list? Take a peek over here. Let me look at some of the teams. There's a second team that we could consider. Maybe a third, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it here in just a second. But all right, here, let's get the show on the road. And welcome in to the Tuesday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope you are all having a fantastic start to your Tuesday. Another fun one in store for you here today on the show. Today on the show, we are looking at teams that could potentially use 2023 as a launching pad to take themselves out of maybe being at that bottom tier of teams who don't have a championship window and pushing themselves into the stratosphere of when we talk about 2024, we are going to talk about blank team being in the mix. And what is so fun about this, and the reason why I wanted to do this show, is I think for every team, for every fan base, a successful 2023 season might mean different things. A successful 2023 season is going to mean something differently from me being a Jets fan, to Bailey being a Bears fan, to a Dolphins fan, to a Cardinals fan, to a Lions fan, to a Saints fan. You name it, there are different expectations across the board for all 32 teams among their fan bases. Now, again, I think everybody probably expects their team to try to do well and try to win and try to maybe make a run at the playoffs. Overall, yes. But there is a varying degree of success and what 2023 might mean for these teams. And so because of that, we are able to look at those different buckets that success could fall into for 2023 and discuss those teams and do deep dives. That's what I'm really looking forward to today here on the show, because we are going to take one of those buckets, and that bucket being teams that maybe we don't think have super high expectations for 2023. We don't maybe necessarily fully anticipate these teams being playoff contenders. They might be in the hunt late into the season, but truly, we don't think they're going to make the playoffs or make some noise. But success here in 2023, paired with some information that I'm going to share with you guys about cap space, about draft picks, about all that kind of stuff, could set up. We would look back at 2023 and say, this is the year in which things turned around for blank franchise. And so the chat has already kind of discussed about a couple of teams here. Colton says, not sure if I understand the assignment, but the Jags are definitely a team in this, right? Not really. Yes, sort of. But they were a playoff team a year ago. The expectations are for them to win the division again, potentially make some noise in the playoffs. It's not really the kind of teams we're talking about today. We're talking about teams that really, truly, probably aren't going to go very far this year. They might not win more than 6 or 7 games, but they could take the right steps this year, get answers at some key questions, and pairing it with some information about cap space and draft picks that we'll discuss throughout the course of the show are going to be set up to start their runway in 2024. That's kind of what we're going for here today. Braden says, hopefully, hashtag our Lions are on it. We can discuss them. Again, I think they fall more into that Jags bucket than they do anything else, but any team that you guys want to potentially throw into this bucket, we can. Braden says, speaking of the Cardinals, I saw them listed in a latest article that should tank for Caleb Williams. Wish I would have shared that with you immediately, Chris. Please. We have a topic on hand today. We have a focus. We are focusing on teams using 2023 as a launching pad. We are not discussing Caleb Williams and the Arizona Cardinals. We will save that for another time. Although we are going to talk Caleb Williams on the show this week, more than likely tomorrow. We'll do the deep dive into Caleb Williams and some of the other quarterbacks for the 2024 draft class. But okay, let's jump into it from this context. I did some digging this morning, and the real inspiration for this is when we were doing our championship window buckets, and we were putting teams in the all-in bucket, and we were putting teams into the firm contender bucket, and we were putting teams in, these are teams that are probably a couple years away bucket. One of the things we came back to with 2 teams in particular, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Cleveland Browns, we kept talking about how much cap hell they're in 2024. Both of those teams, I think, are north of $70 million over the cap for 2024 as it currently stands, meaning that they're going to have to let go of some players who are currently on their team and are currently major factors for their success, and they're going to have to retool their roster. And I thought to myself, after thinking about that, what if we looked at the other end of that spectrum? What if we looked at the end of the spectrum of the teams that are fluent with cash in 2024, that have a ton of cap space, that might have some existing infrastructure already in place to where that money, that cap space, potentially some draft picks as well, is just fuel on the fire to an existing infrastructure. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. I have the top 6 teams. The top 6 teams in cap space for 2024. Now, with each of these teams, there are going to be different questions. There are going to be questions of, do they have any players currently on their roster that are going to eat into this with extensions? That'll change the math a little bit. Like, the Cincinnati Bengals are a little bit lower on this list. Now, one, they don't fit the topic of conversation that we're having here today, but they're fluent with cash for 2024. But I think some of that's going to be eaten up here potentially as soon as the next couple of weeks when they do a Joe Burrow extension. But with Higgins and Boyd and Chase coming up at some point, that number is going to get eaten into a little bit over the next calendar year. And so they're a team. They didn't fit the mold of what we were talking about, but from a cap space perspective, they wouldn't make the list anyway because I think there could be a lot of that money that gets eaten into, and they maybe won't be able to make splashes in free agency. So, with that being said, here are the top 6 teams in cap space that we have on this list here today. I'm just going to present them to you, and I'll take some of your comments in the YouTube chat, and then we'll dive into some of these teams. The Houston Texans, $87.7 million in cap space currently for 2024. The New England Patriots, $85.4 million in cap space for 2024. The Chicago Bears, $80.7 million in cap space for 2024. The Tennessee Titans, $80.4 million in cap space for 2024. The Washington Commanders, $67.6 million in cap space for 2024. And the Indianapolis Colts, $62.9 million in cap space for 2024. Those 6 teams all having $60 or more million in cap space. Now, let's be realistic. They will not walk into the 2024 offseason with exactly this amount of cash. They will have some extensions that they'll get done, or there'll be some players that they want to bring back, and that will eat into this number. But overall, when looking at this picture, these are teams that you think, okay, they're going to have some level of space to be able to add to their team. They're going to have a reasonable amount of cash to be what we would consider a big player in free agency. And what do we talk about on this show all the time? It is one of the things that I fully believe in, and I say it ad nauseum on this show. I love teams that put themselves in a position to have opportunity. If you've got the cap space, if you've got the draft capital, if you have the roster flexibility to where the world is your oyster, where you can do whatever you want, you can entertain any possibility, disgruntled player in X on X team, potentially interested in coming to you, you can explore that possibility. I love the way you GM then. I love the way you build your roster. I love the way you keep yourself flexible to be able to entertain those possibilities. I love when teams do that. You've seen teams do that over the last couple of years, where Miami was able to do it by keeping some cap space and some draft capital on hand, able to land Tyreek Hill. The Jets have been in the mix over the last couple of years for some players. I think the Chicago Bears are going to be the big winner on this list, considering the $80.7 million in cap space. And we haven't talked about the cacophony of draft picks that they're going to ultimately end up with that they have for 2024. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. The Chicago Bears have it in spades. And so just starting from the launching point of, remember, the Bears were big spenders in free agency this year. Maybe not in the way that we wanted them to be. And I've been critical of some of the moves that they've made and the positions that they prioritized this offseason. But they still got over $80 million in cap space going into the 2024 season. And let's just use them as the example. They are the featured image of the thumbnail for this show with Justin Fields, because I think they are the big winner on this list. So we'll start with them. We'll talk about them first. If Justin Fields gets better in 2023, if he's better, if he continues to improve, and he doesn't need to be the player that everyone thinks he is in the NFC. He just needs to be better. If he's better than he was in 2022 and continues to grow and continues to evolve and continues to get better, and you've added DJ Moore into the mix, and he becomes that true number one, and this offense starts to gel, starts to formulate very well, starts to maybe be a little bit more efficient and productive than I think they're going to be in 2023, if they take that next step, and you go into the offseason with $80.7 million in cap space, with your answer quarterback, you've got a wide receiver one who's on a bit of a long-term deal. I think there's 2 or 3 years on his deal after 2023 for DJ Moore. You have all that cap space. You're in a division that we think is going to be wide open. The Vikings, Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. I know we have hashtag our Lions, but how well do they look in 2023? Green Bay, Jordan Love, a lot of question marks in the NFC North. So if you improve in 2023, improve. You don't have to win a ton of games. You don't have to make the playoffs. If you improve, if you play better. Remember, this is a team that had the number 1 overall pick for a reason. If you just play better, you could still be a top 10 team in terms of a pick. But if you just play better, if you are more competitive each and every week, you go into the offseason with $80.7 million. You've got your answer at quarterback. And oh, by the way, you have 4 picks over the first 2 days of the 2024 NFL Draft, including 2 first-rounders. You can very, very quickly pour gasoline on this fire, and we would be talking. The conversation everybody wants to have about the Chicago Bears in 2023, I think they're a year too early. I think that conversation happens in 2024. I think that is going to be the year to hop on board the Chicago Bears bandwagon if Justin Fields continues to develop to where that is the year that they're going to make a splash in the NFC. Because you're going to have the gasoline of the $80.7 million that you can throw on this. You're going to have 2 first-round picks that you're going to be able to use, or you can package. You can do whatever you want with them to help support Justin Fields. You have all the opportunity in front of you. And so for me, I look at them as one of the clear teams that's atop this list to discuss. Now, a team that doesn't have a ton of cap space, they ended up a ton relative to the rest of the groups that we're talking about. They have $45 million. I think it's like $45.4 million in cap space for 2024 as it currently stands. But they've got 6 picks over the first 2 days of the draft. 6. 2 1s, a 2, and 3 3s. A team that's going to be picking 6 times in the top 100. The Arizona Cardinals, $45 million in cap space. 6 picks over the first 2 days. Potentially a fully healthy Kyler Murray, depending on how you feel about what they're going to do long-term with Kyler Murray. You don't think that can be a quick turnaround with that kind of cap space? Listen, $45 million is not 87 like the Houston Texans have. But $45 million is enough to address some needs. It's enough to fix some of the holes on this team. And then you know what you can do with the rest of those? How you can fill the rest of those holes? With your 6 draft picks over the first 2 days. You've got 2 pieces of your offensive line that you think are going to be long-term answers there, and DJ Humphries and Paris Johnson Jr. You've got those 2 guys. Colton says in the chat, not just top picks, possibly 2 top 5 picks. 100%. You might have 2 top 5 picks. You insert Marvin Harrison Jr. into this offense, boom, wide receiver 1, done, taken care of. Draft another offensive lineman, draft an impact pass rusher. We know this team needs pass rush help. They've needed it for the last couple of years. This is what I'm talking about when looking at what 2023 can be. It doesn't have to be just about wins or losses. It can be about how can you set yourself up to start your runway again in 2024. And the Cardinals might be a team that can do it with the cap space, with the answer at quarterback. I think what you need, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, the one thing you need to answer in 2023, talked about this yesterday with Tennessee, in the Tennessee Titans quarterback situation. If you haven't listened to that show, I highly recommend going back and listening to it. It's a great conversation about the purgatory that Tennessee has put themselves in for 2023 by not moving on from Ryan Tannehill, putting themselves in this weird spot. But the Arizona Cardinals need to answer this question in 2023. Do we want to continue long-term with Kyler Murray? That is the answer. That is the question that needs to be answered by Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon. That's it. Wins and losses do not matter. That matters. Is Kyler Murray going to be the long-term answer for the Arizona Cardinals beyond 2023? If you answer that question, successful season. If Kyler Murray comes back and he plays in half the season or however many games and looks like the guy that can lead you into the future and Monty Ossenfort wants to build around Kyler Murray, boom, away we go. 2 first-round picks, 6 picks overall on days 1 and 2. We've already got him under contract, and we've got $45 million in cap space to be able to build around him. If the answer is no, then you go into the 2024 offseason knowing we are going to move on from Kyler Murray. We're going to make a trade. We're going to acquire even more draft capital. And while maybe 2024 isn't the springboard, maybe 2025 ends up being the year where you can turn things around if you hit the reset button at the quarterback position. But you're going to have $45 million in cap space, give or take, depending on how the Kyler Murray trade, when it gets done, how it's orchestrated, and more than 6 draft picks over the first 2 days of the 2024 NFL Draft. That's how quickly you can turn things around in the National Football League. So those are 2 teams to keep an eye on. Houston, with $87.7 million, is not a team to shy away from. There's a lot of pieces that we like. Will Anderson Jr., we like. Derek Stingley Jr., we like. D'Amico Ryans, we think was a great head coaching hire here on this show. Maybe don't love the coaching staff, but we think D'Amico Ryans is going to bring exactly what the Houston Texans need from a culture perspective. They gave him a 6-year contract. They got the quarterback in C.J. Stroud. We're going to get a great first look at him this season. Dameon Pierce, a great young player. A lot of pieces along that offensive line that appear to be really stable pieces that you can build this team around. Is it perfect? No. If it was perfect, Houston wouldn't be drafting where they were last year. But you get good strides from C.J. Stroud in his rookie season, and you can take $87.7 million and surround C.J. Stroud with pieces, both on offense and defense, in a division that could be wide open. It's really just Jacksonville right now. We talked about Tennessee yesterday. They're at risk of falling behind. They're at risk of being the laughingstock of this division if they don't get it right. Houston's got the ability to get it right. They've already got their long-term answer at quarterback, they think. And they might have $87.7 million to surround that player. That's a pretty nice position to be in, with a head coach who would be entering year 2. Tuttle says, I like what the Texans have done. Very promising young team. The next 2 years should be fun. Yeah, I have a long-term bet on the Houston Texans finishing in the bottom of the division for a stretch of 5 seasons. I am 2 years into this bet. This will be year 3 this year. I think I'm going to be okay this year, but I think it's going to be the last 2 years of the bet that I'm going to sweat out a little bit. And I'm okay with losing this bet. I'm okay with being wrong. I thought they would just stay in this purgatory for a really long time and not get it right. I think they're starting to get it right. They got the head coaching hire right, I think. They took a swing at a long-term answer at quarterback. They got Will Anderson Jr. They got some young pieces to surround this wide receiver group with. We don't have to do that again. We don't have to go down that conversation. But they are set up to really, really be interesting over the next couple of years. Again, 2023, not going to be a lot of wins. It's not going to translate. It might be 4, 5, 6 wins at most. But 2024 could really be the year. And that's the point we're making here on the show today, is which teams can use 2023 as a launching pad, where they're going to be able to answer questions in 2023. They're going to be able to kind of move some things around, and they are set up in 2024 with cap space and draft picks and/or to be able to continue to build. And I think the Houston Texans, they fall more into the cap space bucket because they had to move some picks around to get C.J. Stroud. But they've got more cap than anybody else. New England's a team that's interesting with $85.4 million. You got 3 teams in the division that are going all in. You got Miami, you got Buffalo, and you got the Jets that are all kind of in the all-in window in terms of the Jets trading for Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old. The Dolphins are going to have to pay Waddle at some point. They've got some defensive players that they're going to have to pay at some point. Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland. These are guys that are coming up in the next couple of years. So with those guys going all in, New England's just kind of sitting back here, just going to hopefully turn things around with Mac Jones. Again, if you turn things around with Mac Jones and he's your answer at quarterback and you solve that problem, $85.4 million, that's nice. Tuttle says, Jones' situation aside, New England seems to be in a good position team-wise with that cap space, but are just in a brutal division. They are in a brutal division. But how much turnover could happen in that division? I do worry, however, that GM Bill Belichick has not been very good at his job the last couple of years. Coach Bill Belichick, one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. GM Bill Belichick hasn't utilized those dollars very, very well over the last couple of seasons. So that would be the concern that I would have there, is just because you have $85.4 million in cap space doesn't mean you're going to utilize it properly. I remember a couple of years ago, they used a lot of their dollars on Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. That did not work out the way that maybe they thought it was going to. And so, again, it's not just a, if you have cap space, therefore you're going to find success. That's not how it works. But in terms of gasoline on the fire, yeah, they're in a situation where they can do that if Mac Jones bounces back in 2023. Now, if he doesn't, you've got $85.4 million to be able to go out and address quarterback in a different way. Maybe Kirk Cousins goes up to New England. Maybe they utilize some draft picks to go out and trade for a quarterback that they can take on a contract. The Rams were trying to trade Matthew Stafford this offseason. Do they revisit that again in 2024 if Matt Stafford still wants to play? A lot of different options that could play themselves out here over the course of the next couple of months. But the thing I wanted to focus on here today is the teams that find themselves in really good situations to answer questions in 2023, and then with those answers, set themselves up really, really nicely in 2024. Could you imagine if Washington has their guy in Sam Howell? They could take $67.6 million and go out and get some more talent along the offensive line, get a couple wide receivers, fix up this defense, continue to invest with draft capital. That's a pretty nice situation to be in. Indianapolis Colts with $62.9 million in cap space. They just got Anthony Richardson. They had a really good draft. Probably my favorite draft. Pretty sure I marked it as my favorite draft with what they were able to do. If just some of those players pan out, and you take those players and you add $62.9 million to it with other players that you can get via free agency, that's a nice situation to be in. Tennessee, we talked about them yesterday and how they're on the cusp of things not going very well. They've got $80.4 million that they could potentially very quickly turn things around with. So they're a team to pay attention to. That while I think their quarterback situation might not get answered, and so I don't know if 2023 could be a launching pad for them, they've got $80.4 million that they'll be able to kick around to add to this team, shore up this defense, fix the offensive line, get some wide receivers, help out the young quarterback. If Will Levis is going to be your guy in 2024, that $80.4 million needs to be revamping that offensive line, getting wide receivers. Their cap space and the draft capital that the Tennessee Titans have need to be mostly invested in the offensive line and the wide receiver room if they are going to move things over to Will Levis. And again, these are just some of the teams that find themselves at the top of the pecking order when it comes to cap space for 2024 that I'm intrigued in paying attention to. Again, I don't think anybody sits here and looks at Houston, New England, Chicago, Tennessee, Washington, or Indy and mistakes them for playoff contenders in 2023. That doesn't mean they're not interesting. That doesn't mean they're not intriguing. It doesn't mean that the 2023 season can't be a very important turning point, inflection point, fork in the road, whatever phrase you want to use. It can be that thing for those teams, setting themselves up for 2024. And so that's what we kind of wanted to focus on here on the show today. Appreciate you all being here and making this show a part of your day each and every day that we do this podcast. We would love it if you rate, review, subscribe to the show, share the show with a friend. Greatly appreciate it as we continue to build a ton of momentum for the show ahead of the college season and the NFL season starting just a few short weeks from now. Very, very excited. Looking forward to the in-season content that we're going to be able to bring you here on the show. And I'm sure you're going to want to tell your friends about it. And so please rate, review, subscribe, share the show, continue to grow this community, continue to grow out the fantastic conversations that we're able to have here every single day. And that is because you guys continue to show up. You guys continue to rate, review, subscribe, and share the show. And we greatly do appreciate it here. You can catch us on the YouTube side of things Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live a little bit before the show starts. You got the pre-show, you get the recording of the actual show, and then you get into the post-show where we sometimes continue the show conversation or we go completely off into other areas, other sports, random pop culture stuff. It gets weird in the post-show. You're going to want to be a part of it. So Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you can catch that. If you're not able to join us live and you still want to catch the video version of the show, no problem. We got you covered. Go over to the Draft Network YouTube channel, click on the live tab. All of the VODs are there for you so you can catch up on the show and see the video version of the show. You actually get a live replay of the chat as well so you can see all the comments in real time. So if you want to catch it that way, you have that as well. We appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. We hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk with you all tomorrow. Into the post show. Into the post show. Hello, everybody. Wide receiver market looking weak, though. 2024 wide receiver market. It didn't look great when I looked at it yesterday, but let me just make sure. The 2024 NFL wide receiver free agents. I am back, Chris. Sam, you have terrible timing. It just ended the show. We're in the post show. Post show might go for a little bit, but which AFC East team will Dalvin Cook suit up for this year? I don't know. Probably the Dolphins. What do we got here? Colton, we've got Mike Evans. We've got Odell Beckham Jr. I'm just looking at Spotrack's top names. I'm not vouching or vetting that these are definitely going to be free agents. Corey Davis. Curtis Samuel's a decent player, but again, not a great player. Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's an interesting name. Paris Campbell. Man, if Campbell has a good year in New York, Might be a good goal up for him, and he might be able to get paid this offseason. Is Calvin really a free agent? Spotrac tells me Calvin really is a free agent. That is because he is a free agent. So that's an interesting thing. Michael Pittman Jr., T. Higgins, those are two interesting names. I think Cincinnati's going to pick T. Higgins over Tyler Boyd. And if Indianapolis lets go of Michael Pittman Jr., we're going to do an entire show where I yell at Heldy for 35 minutes. I'm just going to yell at Heldy for 35 minutes. Does Tampa extend Evans out knowing they will have a young rookie QB next year and will need to surround him with weapons? Maybe. Sports nut. But free agency happens first, right? And so if you're Mike Evans, if things don't go well this year, and I know Tampa's been your home your entire life, but if things don't go well this year and you're going to hit free agency, are you going to wait around to see which quarterback Tampa ends up with? Or are you going to take a potential opportunity to go to a winner and at this stage of your career be a top option for a Super Bowl contender? That's the question that I would ask to you, Sportsnut. No, Heldy, we're discussing wide receiver free agents for 2024, and technically Michael Pittman Jr. is a free agent. And I said that if the Colts do not re-sign Michael Pittman Jr., we're going to do an entire episode where I just yell at you for 35 minutes. Like, I'm just going to specifically towards you if they let Michael Pittman Jr. go. It depends on Evans' market. Teams are valuing top-end wide receivers less and less nowadays. Fair, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, does Mike Evans, at this stage of his career, value the dollars that Tampa could potentially throw at him to keep, or does he value the opportunity to go play for a winner and maybe take less money? I don't know. Mike Evans has always been Tampa. It was a walking 1,000-yard season. One of the best receivers in football. Part of a Super Bowl championship team there in Tampa. At that stage of his career where he's going to be 30 and a half, he's going to be 31 in 2024. Does he want to go through a rebuild? I don't know. Next year's wide receiver free agency will be interesting because the market will be flipped on its head after Justin Jefferson's new deal. You've got that, and who else? Is Chase able to sign it? Are Chase and Waddle eligible as well? I forget. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a young piece that a team could sign. Yes. Donovan Peoples-Jones is one of those players. Yes. NFL teams, CeeDee Lamb, Pittman Jr. You're just shouting out wide receiver sports. Jalen Waddle, so I'm looking for. Yeah, this is year 3 for Jalen. So at the end of this year, he can start signing a contract extension. They'll pick up his 5th-year option at the end of the year, and then they'll probably work out a long-term deal. So Jefferson's going to reset the market. Waddle and Chase are going to be in there as well. So, that's the wide receiver money is going to reset itself big time here this offseason. That might be a fun show topic in season. Somebody write that. See, we don't have the producer of the show here. Bailey's not here. Can somebody file that one away for me? Please? File that one away, like at the midway point of the season. Let's check in on how receivers are performing so that we can discuss how crazy the 2024 offseason is going to be in terms of wide receiver dollars. That's a good show topic to file away. Thank you, Sam, for filing that one away. Yeah, that's gonna be one to do midseason. Especially if Chase and Waddle continue to do what they've been doing. And with the Jefferson contract, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be absolutely wild. But all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Going to edit the show for the podcast audience. Expectation is tomorrow we're discussing Caleb Williams and Drake May. I'll just be honest with you. That's the plan. The current plan is on tomorrow's show. We are going to discuss Caleb Williams and Drake May. I can't sell you any more on the show. That's it. That's what I've got for you. Tomorrow on the show, we are going to discuss the top 2 quarterback prospects as it currently sits for 2024. And if I still feel that they're the top 2 quarterback prospects. That's what you get tomorrow. Caleb Williams, Drake May, 2. And then we're going to do 2 more guys on Thursday, and then we'll probably do a couple more guys on Friday. That's the plan the rest of the week. That's what we're doing. So if you want to have a conversation about Caleb Williams and Drake May, and you want to hear my thoughts on Caleb Williams and Drake May, you're going to want to come back to the show tomorrow because that's currently the plan. Yeah, Colton, so the way we're going to do this, and I thought a lot about it over the last couple of days, is we're going to do just a couple quarterbacks at a time. And I think Caleb Williams and Drake May are big enough names to where the conversation is just going to be all over the place with those 2 guys in particular. So we'll just keep it to those 2 guys. And then over the course of the next couple of days, we'll fit 2 or 3 guys in. And then when we're done with all of them, we'll stack them. We'll rank them. And I'll rank them as we go personally. Like going into tomorrow, I'll have one of the guys as QB1 and one of the guys as QB2. And then as we start looking at more guys, I'll add to the list and we'll update the list in real time. So that's currently the plan of what we're going to do over the next couple of days worth of shows is look at the quarterbacks. So hope you all can be here and hang out with us here on the show and do that tomorrow and over the next couple of days worths of shows. So I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for being here, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you all have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.